The moment you understand this truth, everything changes. The ones who hurt you most were never your enemies. They were the ones you trusted in silence. You welcomed them into your heart without questions, without suspicion, without armor. You gave them softness when the world taught you to give steel. And here's the suspense. The betrayal was not your downfall. It was your entrance into strength. It was not love dying. It was weakness leaving. And if you listen closely, beneath heartbreak, beneath loneliness, beneath unspoken desire, you will hear the whisper Stoics always heard. The whisper that says, do not cling, do not beg, do not chase, become someone worth finding. In the world today, especially here in the United States, relationships move fast. Feelings burn bright, then vanish like a spark in the wind. People text what they can't say with their voice. They promise what they can't deliver. They touch without connection. They get close without intimacy. But a Stoic man, a Stoic woman, they live differently. They don't run from love. They don't fear closeness. They don't hide from desire. They simply refuse to be ruled by it. A Stoic doesn't avoid intimacy. A Stoic avoids losing himself inside someone else's chaos. Because the deepest form of seduction is not in words. It's not even in touch. It's in mystery. It's in restraint. It's in silence, the kind of silence that makes someone lean closer, craving what you refuse to explain. The silence that becomes power. The silence that becomes hunger. The silence that becomes unforgettable. Everyone thinks passion is loud, but the most dangerous desire is quiet, the kind you feel but can't control, the kind you can't demand, only sense. Stoics knew this centuries ago. Modern America is just starting to rediscover it. Let me tell you a secret most never grasp. You don't lose people because you were too Stoic. You lose people because you were Stoic too late. You showed discipline after you already showed desperation. You learned silence after you already spoke too much. You discovered detachment after you already clung too tightly. The world admires restraint, but only if it appears natural. Only if it looks like identity, not reaction. Only if it shines like a lifestyle, not a coping mechanism. And relationships, especially between men and women, especially inside the emotional storms of modern dating, they test this like nothing else. Because love stirs ego, and ego stirs fear, and fear stirs destruction. And here lies the suspense again. Your heart can survive betrayal, but your ego convinces you it can't. Your heart can endure silence, but your ego thinks silence looks like loss. Your heart can heal without revenge, but your ego demands the theater of punishment. And this is why most men fail. This is why most women break, not because love is weak, but because ego screams while love waits quietly in the corner, saying nothing, needing nothing, surviving everything. In every great story there is a turning point. Stoicism is not the ending, it is the turning point. It is the moment a man stops reacting and starts becoming. It is the moment a woman stops crumbling and starts choosing. It is the moment you stop interpreting love as possession and start interpreting love as freedom. Most never reach this point. And that is why this philosophy spreads across YouTube like wildfire, not because people want peace, but because they want strength. They want calm that feels lethal. They want silence that feels intentional. They want a heart that can love without shaking. And here in America, where competition is noisy and emotions are loud, someone calm always looks invincible. Someone silent always looks chosen. Someone disciplined always looks seductive, because weakness is predictable. Strength is intoxicating, chaos is common, self-command is rare. A stoic man loves like winter sun, limited but real, warm but not consuming, clear but not begging, and a stoic woman she loves like deep water. Silent, strong, unmoved by storms, dangerous if you forget to respect her depth. They don't need control because control is for the insecure. They don't demand loyalty because loyalty is revealed, not negotiated. They don't panic when the world shifts because they know the universe doesn't honor neediness, it honors mastery. And desire, Stoics never pretended it didn't exist. They taught you how to own it, not how to kill it. Because energy that is denied becomes poison, but energy that is directed becomes empire. A man who controls himself does not lose desire. He decides where it lives. He decides who earns access. He decides when silence speaks louder than touch. And a woman who masters herself does not fear being close. She fears being absorbed. She fears losing identity to affection. She fears needing someone more than she needs truth. That is not purity. That is power. America today is loud. Dating is loud. Opinions are loud. Temptation is loud. But the most earth-shaking truth is rarely announced with a microphone. It travels quietly from one awakened person to another, like an underground storm moving unnoticed until it splits the ground open. That is Stoicism, not the dramatic version people pretend to live after heartbreak, the real version, the ancient version, the timeless version, the version built for a society drowning in noise. A Stoic does not seduce with explanation. A Stoic seduces with presence. A Stoic does not intimidate with threats. A Stoic intimidates with stillness. And in relationships, stillness always holds leverage over panic. Silence always carries more weight than speech. Restraint always outshines chaos. Especially in the United States, the psychological capital of emotional overstimulation, where everyone is trying to be seen, but almost no one is trying to understand themselves before being seen. Let me tell you the suspense of attraction. When a woman pulls away, the average man leans forward. He texts more. He explains more. He fears more. But the Stoic man pulls back further, not to punish her, but to observe himself, to see if his heart is calling or his ego is panicking. And when a man withdraws, the average woman tries harder. She analyzes more. She seeks signs more. She fears losing certainty. But the Stoic woman does not chase signs. She waits for consistency because signs lie, patterns reveal, stillness exposes truth. Stoics believed emotions are like wild horses. They are not evil, they are simply useless if they are not trained. And relationships fail not when feelings die, but when discipline never arrives to guide them. When love has no boundaries, love has no survival. You think silence is absence. It's not. It's evaluation. It's composition. It's power being assembled behind curtains. It's energy being sharpened into a blade that won't swing unless necessary. The weakest sound a man can make in love is panic. The strongest sound a man can make is nothing at all. Because silence tells the story words ruin. Silence creates the question words try to answer too quickly. Silence behaves like self-possession, and self-possession behaves like attraction, not cheap attraction. The rare kind, the kind modern America can't mass-produce because it comes only from inner victory. It is the calm that makes a woman feel watched without being stalked. The calm that makes a man feel respected without intimidation. The calm that turns mystery into desire, not anxiety, intimacy without neediness, connection without possession, love without self-loss. That is the equilibrium most never reach, and that is exactly why it goes viral, because rarity always beats noise. Stoicism in love is not ignoring someone. It is refusing to be ruled by someone. Stoicism is not emotional death. It is emotional economy. Stoicism is not rejecting intimacy. It is rejecting slavery to intimacy. And hear this clearly, especially if you're listening as someone who has loved and lost, someone who has tasted desire and confusion, someone who has been heartbroken in silence and now wants strength without coldness. You don't need to erase love to become stoic. You need to erase fear. You don't need to choke desire to become unshakable. You need to redirect it. You don't need to run from intimacy to stay powerful. You need to stay yourself inside intimacy. The world doesn't change when heartbreak happens. The world changes when your response to heartbreak stops being predictable. There is nothing more suspenseful than a person with no visible cracks. There is nothing more seductive than a heart that doesn't run, doesn't control, doesn't beg, simply is. That is stoic virality. That is timeless leverage. That is emotional magnetism without panic. The world is not moved by people who fall apart loudly. The world is hypnotized by people who rebuild themselves quietly. And now I tell you the final twist. The goal was never to detach from people. The goal was to detach from fear of losing people. The goal was never to silence desire. The goal was to silence the chaos around desire. The goal was never to avoid intimacy. The goal was to enter intimacy without losing sovereignty. The suspense was never in love itself. The suspense was always in who you become after love tests you. Most get shaken. The stoic gets sharpened. Most get loud. The stoic gets quiet. Most get lost. The stoic becomes found. And in the land of noise, calm becomes controversy. In the theater of love, silence becomes seduction. In the storm of relationships, self-command becomes legend. What comes next, that depends on you. But I promise you this, the strongest answer you can give to heartbreak, to desire, to betrayal, to silence, to love that left, is never revenge, never begging, never collapsing. The answer that shakes the algorithm of life itself is simple. It is quiet. It is dangerous. It is timeless. Become someone unruined by loss. The world will not help you announce it. The world will notice it without needing an announcement.